In a shocking incident, ladies and gentlemen, a 9-year-old girl was found dead in a swimming pool of a high-rise, posh residential complex in Bengaluru's tech corridor. We don't know the why and how of what happened yet. But look at these live wires. Residents have alleged that she tripped on one of these and fell into the pool. They've also alleged earlier instances where children in the society have got electric shocks while playing in the park, very close to the swimming pool. Police is probing this case and have said they haven't been able to find if death was due to drowning or electrocution.
We want justice for our kid.
Sheer negligence.
Sheer negligence.
Live wires were there, and there were enough complaints were given, but there was no action from the PPMS, and at the end we are losing the life of our children. It is really unfortunate. This is enough high time for PPMS to take responsibility and take actions, which is going to help the residents to stay here safely.
They should be caught under Section 304A. It's a death under negligence by PPMS and HOA both, because when the complaints were given long back and nobody took any action on it, it clearly is a case of death due to negligence.
They're trying to tamper with evidence. They're trying to fix the live wires everywhere around the pool. We don't want that to happen. We wanted an investigation from the police, but the police is not taking up our matter.
This is shocking at so many levels. The fact remains we don't know how this 9-year-old child died, but she has died. Her family, her father has given a police complaint, has asked the police for a detailed probe to find the reason of this death. He said he got to know this after she was rushed to the hospital. But residents are angry. And the reason is on your screen, the visuals of how there are live wires. And they've told our team, Mirror Now team went on the ground and they've spoken to the Mirror Now team and they've showed the various live wires across that residential complex that were lying naked, lying uncovered and open. I'm being joined right now by Sandeep Anuradhan, who's a founder for the Citizens Agenda for Bengaluru, and D.S. Rajashekar, who's a president for the Bengaluru Praja Vedika, as well as Deepender, who's a Prestige apartment resident, and B.S. Arun, who's a senior journalist. Now, we've also sought a response from the builders where this incident happened, but we've not got a response from them at all as of now. Now, let me just first go over to the person who was living in this particular complex. Deepender, what do you have to say?
Okay, to begin with, we have heartfelt condolences with the family of the deceased and the near and dear ones. We are all in a state of shock, and the environment is somber here. Now, again, I am joining in my individual capacity based on the research work I have done in the last maybe 8 hours since 10 o'clock in the evening yesterday, and there are a lot of misses and lacunas which I have observed. For which I'm still looking for answer, which the residents are looking for answer from the builder. I've gone through the processes laid down by the builder and their maintenance agency, and the artifacts which we really want to ascertain what went wrong, how it went wrong, and how in the longer run we can improve the processes so that there are no more cases as such. But sadly, why I'm
disappointed we get your
is
point, sir. Can you just come to what really have you found?
Okay. We are still looking for the documents which indicate that the maintenance routines of the swimming pool lights have been conducted periodically in a regular manner. There are so many complaints raised by the residents.
Before you get into that point, sir,
we are awaiting.
Can you explain to us before you get into those details, sir, can you explain to us the situation of live wires? Because from what I've been hearing from those who have gone there and spoken to the residents there, this seems to be a big concern. Can you explain this to us? Just how extensive are these live wires around the place you're living in?
Okay, see, first of all, a live wire near a play area, a children's play area or a swimming pool is a disaster waiting to happen. And there are scores of incidents.
Absolutely.
I'm sure not only this apartment, there were many other apartments across India where such incidents would have happened. Unfortunately, we had an accident yesterday And as you can see in your own visuals, you've been here, right, for the whole day. I appreciate your presence here, and you've captured it. Some of them have been taped. Some of them may be lying live in some remote corner of this 101-acre property. And this is where our concern is. That when will we have a robust process, not only in these apartments across India, across in your apartment if you live in some of some of the apartments, that when we are going to have a regulatory and a strong robust mechanism, if it does not exist, or the
Have
robust
you filed
implementation.
complaints before? Have you filed complaints before?
We have had a lot of complaints. Residents have been raising complaints verbally and in written, both, right? With the maintenance agency. It's a builder in-house agency, uh, but the resolution is not as per our expectation. I hope I've answered your question.
Sir, I don't intend to be intrusive, but before I get the other panelists on board, I really don't intend to be intrusive, but may I know how much, roughly, how much would a 3 BHK flat in this particular residential complex cost?
Well, I'm not abreast with the latest rates, but optimistically speaking, it will be about 2.5 crores.
Right. So here is the major problem. Citizens pay through their pockets. They pay through their pockets. They'll take loans and buy these apartments, or perhaps they have savings that they have invested in, or various other reasons. But the point is, these are properties that are bought with much dreams and hard work. And look at what happens. What are we seeing around? These are just live wires all around that place. And there are instances that have happened in the past as well. Let me just get in at this point. D.S. Rajashekar, who's the president for the Bengaluru Praja Vedike. Mr. Rajshekar, this incident is absolutely unfortunate, shouldn't have happened, cannot come to terms to it, even though we don't know what has caused it. But is this an isolated case?
No, definitely, I don't think it's an isolated case. Firstly, my sympathies and condolences to the family. But the question what you asked, see, this is not an isolated case. Yeah, maybe it's come to light because of lot of coverage and other things. But I would tell that since Bangalore has become a hub of apartments and many high-rise buildings, there is lot of compromise by the builders, by the associations and everybody. Because periodical checks, there is no checks and balances. Only when residents want to do something inside the apartment, inside the community, there are so many questions, so many policies, so many principles being asked. But whereas the builder goes scot-free.
Have you come across societies, and have you come across builders and buildings through your sources, through your acquaintances, where similar issues of live wires have really been seen? Have you come across such instances?
No, see, we keep hearing, because we are in civic activism, we definitely have a lot of people talking about that, yes, these kind of incidents are there and there are no checks and balances. Because the most important thing, see, when this kind of an incident happens outside the community, where I mean to say, where individual houses are there, at least we have accountability by the BESCOM to be taken or something else. But inside a community, who has to be blamed? It is the builder, it is the maintenance who has to do these things, checks properly, because it is one life. They have played with a life, and that family has given a life for negligence of somebody's work. And this is just not acceptable, because these are all highly paid apartments. I don't even want to comment that whether it is lot of money which has been paid, or whether it's a small apartment which has been with a smaller payment bought. But
Sure.
I mean to say that there is a life which has gone, paid for the negligence of the maintenance and the builders who have no respect for these kind of quality checks and balances and periodical maintenance.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. B.S. Arun, you're a senior journalist. You're very well versed with what's happening in Bengaluru. Sitting very far from Bengaluru, this is extremely disturbing. But there have been so many cases of deaths due to electrocution just in Bengaluru, for that matter. We have entire graphics and data right before us on your screen. You can just read them for the viewers to just understand this. There have been so many cases of electrocution. But in this case, I understand we don't know whether the death is due to electrocution. But Mr. Arun, how do you really put this in perspective when you look at it? It's happening in Bengaluru. It's the IT city. It's something that is a pride of India. Techies world over flock this place, and this is an absolutely posh area. To think naked, uncovered wires would be all around near the play area of children.
Yes, Neha, this is very unfortunate. And IT City is just in name, it looks like when you see these kind of incidents happening. In just about, less than 2 months ago, we saw a mother and a child getting electrocuted. She was walking, she got out from the bus, she was walking down to her house, and on a footpath, she tripped on a live wire and died instantly. It's the mother and the child, that is the kind of the administration, the lack of responsibility, lack of accountability that we see in this so-called IT city. And today's incident happening in one of the prestigious, apartments is another shocking, example of this irresponsibility on the part of. I don't know whether I should say it is of the builder or of the apartment association, because normally the builder gives the responsibility of managing the apartment to the apartment association, which runs the apartment, the maintenance and everything. That is it's the responsibility of this association. In this case, I'm not very sure whether it is the builder or the association. One of the residents whom you have spoken to, he would be in a position to say about this, because to pin down the accountability is also very important in this case, because if the live wires have been exposed, and which caused the death of this child, this is a very one big example of sheer inability of the apartment or the builder to have caused this death. And such incidents, should not happen, and there should be some guidelines of these by these apartment associations as to ensure how these incidents don't recur.
Sandeep Aniruddhan, he's the founder for Citizens Agenda for Bengaluru. Sandeep, is there a way out? I mean, who's responsible for this? The builders who made the building, clearly aren't they supposed to be ensuring maintenance? Isn't the association supposed to be getting after the builders for the maintenance? Or was this a share-off between the residents and the association? Was it supposed to be done outsourced through somebody? We don't know the details of these things. The builders have not really spoken to us in this particular case. But who's responsible for this?
See, prima facie, since we haven't got any established facts as to cause of the death, there are a few things that are very glaring and openly visible. One is that there's a pool that doesn't have a fence. It is not separated from, say, play area of children and stuff like that. Secondly, I don't know how such young children are allowed near a pool without supervision. Typically, apartment complexes have a lifeguard or adult supervision when children are allowed into the pool. In this case, obviously, it has not been done. Otherwise, it could have been prevented or detected early. Thirdly, are there any standards? Before we go into standards, while, of course, I express my condolences to the family, but frankly, what were these individuals?
There's no tangent here. There's really no tangent. We are very open to anything that could have happened here.
No, what I'm saying is, what were all these individuals living in that apartment? Didn't they ever observe that first the pool is open, children are playing there unaccompanied, and there are these hazards and cables and all that? In a posh apartment like this, if individuals, let's assume they're educated and well off, don't they notice these things for the safety of their own family and their children? Do they wait till death happens? And from this is the personal attitude of us Indians today. And from there, it reflects on everything else that happens. Electrification inside an apartment complex, electrification outside on the streets. There are wires hanging on the streets everywhere. We don't know if they're live or not. even after the death of a lady and a child, even now in Bengaluru, you walk around, you'll find cables dangling everywhere. And then another thing, I was just researching to see if there are any safety standards that are prescribed for, say, an apartment building, poolside, and stuff like that. I found safety standards and codes for the UK, for USA, Australia, all over the world, but I didn't find anything for India. So while we have to get rid of this illusion that we're the
okay.
IT capital of the world, if you're actually in Bangalore, we live in a primitive age. Everything that we do, there is nothing IT about Bangalore. We are
Let me just
basically
get in
the
Deepender
IT
to
sweatshop
respond to
of the
it
world.
because you've asked some specific questions to the residents. Let me just get in Deepender to respond to it. And I understand your question is not particularly to these residents. It's in context of what has really happened in the larger picture. But Deepender, do you want to answer these questions that Sandeep seemed to have asked right now?
Yes, I would answer both Arun's question and Sandeep's question. To begin with, HO is an organization by the residents who is interested to ensure or to keep a watchdog. They are like a watchdog on the maintenance agencies which have been hired, and we pay a huge amount to them to upkeep our residents, our locality. Blaming the HOAA may not be we may not be going in the right direction to answer that question, right? So maintenance agencies which have been hired with money, they should be held more accountable. In any case, not only in our case, but any case. That's first. Now coming to whether it was a residents apathy or not, let me answer this question. There have been a lot of complaints raised on MyGate, which is an app used by the by our society for raising complaints. That means residents
A
have been
centralized
vigilant.
app. That's right.
Not yes, right? So I answer that question. Secondly, the question why the kids were allowed to venture out in the pool area unaccompanied. Now, if you come to our society and see, the swimming pool is very close to the play area. Now, while the kids who actually go into the pool are accompanied by their parents or their guardians up to a certain age, but what to do of those kids which are playing in the play area and suddenly they run around to the swimming pool? Are we supposed to blame the kids? Not really.
Did you ever
So it
ask for
becomes
a
an issue.
barricade, a fence? Did the society ever ask for that?
Okay, now see, not everything is perfect in this world. So today, when we were, contemplating or reflecting on this
No, I
incident,
get it. I'm
the
just
first
trying
thing
to
that came to our
understand. Was
mind
this
was,
demand raised before? That's all. This is not a blame game happening here.
not to
We're
my
just trying
knowledge,
to
not to my
understand.
knowledge, not to my knowledge.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Have you been able to speak to the family? They must be absolutely distraught. Have you been able to speak to the family?
Barely, but I restrained myself because I understand. I mean, I try to understand their emotions. I will not be able to, considering the gravity of the situation.
I understand. Sure. Have you been able to reach out to the builders after this incident?
We have reached out to the PPMS agency. We had some of their reps yesterday night, but after that, we've been looking for them. We are still waiting for them to come because I have loads of questions for them, and I hope they are able to answer it and provide me the right information. Not to blame them, but to take all of us in the right direction so that none of us are in a sorry state of affair. Neither the builder nor us as residents.
Was there a previous instance like this also earlier, where a child apparently got an electric shock? I was being told by my colleague who was present in the at the complex earlier today. Would you know of it? All right, there seems to be some issue with Deepender there. But let me just get in again, Sandeep Anirudhan. Sandeep, what should be done in these cases? What is the guidelines that this must be adhered to? Even if the overarching guidelines aren't there, what should one really do when there are live wires like this that are completely unattended? And look at these live wires. They're absolutely shocking that they're right next to the play area.
Sneha, isn't it amusing that we are targeting a 5 trillion economy? We want to be a superpower and all that. And we don't even have basic safety standards either inside housing complexes or in public areas. All these accidents that have happened on the metro, the pillar collapsing, electric, it's basically non-adherence to either safety standards or there exist no safety standards. Sometimes you try to find a code, this is what we should comply with. You won't find it. But if you go to the UK, there's a list of things they have to adhere to, even inside a housing complex. The pool should be fenced. You can't allow children there, unaccompanied or without lifeguards. These are prescribed. Now, assuming there was a list of standards like these, it would have been very easy for these residents to petition the government and say, in our building, safety standard number this is not being complied with. Therefore, penalize somebody. Because we don't have these standards, which is the indication of whether we are even developing or not. If you look at, like I said, Bengaluru is a primitive city. There's nothing IT about it. We're just an IT sweatshop of the
B.S.
world.
Arun?
We do amazing
So
things
are
for
we
the rest
saying
of
that
the
there
world.
are no guidelines, there are no policies? Would you know about this, Mr. B.S. Arun? For residential complexes of how it should be maintained, what should be done? Are we really saying India or Karnataka or Bengaluru for that matter doesn't really have these policies in place?
No, I think there must be policies, although I have not seen them. See, for example, I myself live in an apartment, and here these checks and maintenance issues where we very strictly adhere to. For example, every month, within the 5th of every month, there has to be an inspection of the lifts. The lift fellow comes and he checks. That's the kind of maintenance. And as far as Sandeep was talking about the barricade to the swimming pool, and for example, we have a barricade, and it's the timings are also there, and the gate is locked only when the swimming pool is open for for the residents. Then only it is open. There are timings, and only then it is open. Otherwise, it is locked, and there is a barricade so that nobody, especially children, enter this area. So these are the kind of things which the association or the residents themselves must ensure. That these steps are taken to ensure maximum safety for the residents as well as the children. As far as the guidelines are concerned, I'm sure there must be, because the apartment and the people living in these apartments, this is a big issue, and a growing city like Bangalore, which has hundreds of apartments, I'm sure has all these in addition to the bylaws, has all these guidelines and various other acts. There is an apartment association here in Bangalore which takes care of, I'm sure, these issues. I think Sandeep would be aware of these issues.
Would you know about it? Sure.
Sneha, many a times.
DS Rajshekhar, would you know about these things?
Yeah. See, many a times it is more.
And also one more question, DS Rajshekhar. It's very surprising that India or the posh areas wouldn't have these policies, because if you look at countries like US, one of the biggest reasons for children to drown in accidents is one of the biggest reasons for children to die in accidents is accidental drowning. So it's not like a unknown case in across the world. These are things that are happening in countries. Small babies are also made to learn swimming in countries like US. It's seen as a self-defense.
True. See, like as my other friends were telling, it's not that we don't have policies. We definitely have policies, but many of it are compromised, both by the builders and the citizens. Sorry to be telling this, but this is what is happening in every community. Or the worst part of it is that we don't ask questions, and not questions till we get an answer. That's the whole problem, because we tend to keep quiet when these kind of things are going on. Maybe once, twice, thrice we ask, and then we get fed up because the person who has to perform these duties are not doing it, and then we get away from that. But that should not be the attitude. The thing is that until these things are fixed and we see that there are safety rules all over, like whether it is in the community or outside the community, until it is taken to the last logical end, these things will keep happening, because we as citizens don't ask questions. That's what I would want to tell, because most of the time there are a lot of compromises from both the sides. So that's why we give life to rectify things temporarily, not even permanently.
Great. Sandeep, do you want to add something right in the end? Just a minute to you. What should apartments, high-rise apartments, posh or not posh, really do to ensure something like this doesn't happen? We cannot afford another death like this. And remember, we don't know whether this is a case of electrocution or not. But there have been precedents of electrocutions in Bengaluru repeatedly, in Karnataka repeatedly, and even in other places. And something like this, even if it's electrocution or not, is really unacceptable. What should be the immediate action that people who live in residential complexes should take? A minute.
What I'd like to highlight is that all my fellow panelists said there must be policies. None of them were able to point to a policy, which means either we don't have a policy, we are assuming there is one, or nobody is aware of what the policy is. So either way, it's a help of no help, right? So first of all, we need to have a set of standards. If you just simply Google, you'll get the ASTM standards for the US, and you'll know exactly what has to be done in a building where there's a pool and stuff like that. We need to have clarity and visibility and awareness among people as to what standards exist for what. Secondly, as a country, we need to become law abiding. Typically, we don't follow any laws. We violate every bylaw. In Bengaluru, you see everything is violated, be it construction laws, be it layout formation laws, be it traffic rules. Nobody follows anything. So eventually, we keep inviting death.
All right.
There are buildings here. This is a small thing, okay?
Okay.
If you look at most constructions that are happening in Bengaluru today, they don't even leave fire safety laws. As in, there is no gap between buildings. In a layout, if one building catches fire, I'm scared of the day it will happen. One building catches fire and an entire layout will catch fire. This is the kind of gross negligence.
All right, point taken. We're totally out of time. We're totally out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt you at this point. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. There's just one thing to say. We may just debate it, and we can only hope that this is going to bring things to the forefront. It's going to get the attention of authorities, wherever in the private or in the government sector. But things need to change, particularly not just in the IT city, but across India. We cannot afford another death due to negligence, whether it be public or in private.